As good as it's gonna get, folks. Hair and all. It's just not gonna get much better than this. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a...
Come in, team. We're doing it again. Team what? Skater later, skater. After a while, crocodile. We'll see you at the Oscars. Wait, that's tonight? Yeah, that's actually where we're going. You and me going to the A's. It was playful banter. The kind of charming, spontaneous energy that once defined Rachel Zegler and Josh Andres Rivera as Hollywood's young power couple. When asked on the red carpet what movie she loved this year aside from her own, Rachel laughed, looking at Josh for help. Josh, what's one movie we saw this year that we loved? He smiled back. We enjoyed Licorice Pizza a lot. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Two rising stars glowing in the warmth of each other's success. But the glow didn't last. Fast forward to now, and headlines paint a very different picture. Rachel Zegler and Josh Andres Rivera have allegedly called it quits. And while celebrity breakups are far from rare, this one carries a deeper sting. It wasn't a quiet fading of love or the simple growing apart of two busy actors. It was a very public implosion, fueled by relentless media scrutiny, social media outrage, and the crushing weight of a career controversy that wouldn't die down. What began as a fairy tale romance between two co-stars turned into a cautionary tale about fame, fandom, and fallout. Rachel's once bright reputation began to fracture under the spotlight. Interviews that were meant to promote Snow White only made things worse. She came across as dismissive, frustrated, even arrogant to some, and that perception spread like wildfire online. Suddenly, clips were being shared with captions like, "She's ungrateful," "She hates the original," "Disney made a huge mistake." The backlash was fierce. Commentators and YouTubers joined the pile on. "I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie," one viral video ranted. "There's this big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. She has to go. I'm sorry, Disney, but she has to go. And if you disagree with that, unfollow me. I don't need your business." Another influencer shouted into the camera, "You didn't write it, you didn't direct it, you didn't create Snow White. Just shut up and do the job you were paid for." Meanwhile, Rachel's attempts to address the hate only added fuel to the fire. "I can also be having the greatest time," she wrote online, "and simultaneously wish people would stop sending me death threats." But compassion was in short supply. "There's something wrong with her," one critic declared. "She's disturbed, unhappy, and thinks it's all about feminism and patriarchy, when really she's just not stable." Hollywood is full of people like that. The public's patience wore thin. Calls to boycott the movie echoed across social media. "No matter how much your kids love Snow White, don't support this film," a podcast host warned. Others criticized Disney directly. "This is the worst casting decision in film history," one commenter said. "I mean, she talked trash about the original movie. How tone-deaf can a studio be?" Even co-stars weren't spared from speculation. Rumors circulated that Andrew Burnap's scenes might be cut. Rachel herself joked, "Who knows, it's Hollywood, baby." But that playful tone came off as flippant to fans who were already upset. Soon, clips were taken out of context, quotes twisted, and narratives spun faster than she could respond. And then came the most brutal comments yet. "Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig. She stands 18 hours in a dress and now wants to be paid for every hour it streams online." The internet had turned cruel, and Rachel became an easy target, a symbol of Hollywood arrogance in the minds of those eager to see a star fall. Throughout it all, Josh tried to be her anchor. According to multiple sources close to the former couple, he was patient and protective, doing his best to help Rachel tune out the noise. When you're sitting next to someone who's so proud of you and you're so proud of them, everything just makes sense, he once said, smiling. And for a while, that seemed true. They were a team, united against the storm. But even the strongest bond can crack under constant pressure. The online chaos became impossible to ignore. Every interview, every tweet, every rumor crept into their private world. The memes, the backlash, the arguments, none of it stayed outside the relationship. The more Rachel was dragged online, the more Josh felt helpless. What started as unwavering support slowly turned into exhaustion. Friends say they grew distant, caught between public perception and personal pain. Josh, once her biggest cheerleader, began pulling away, while Rachel, overwhelmed and defensive, doubled down. The laughter that once filled their interviews was replaced with silence. The red carpets and photo ops faded into tabloid whispers and fan speculation. By the time Snow White's controversy reached its peak, their relationship had quietly unraveled. What was once a love story built on shared dreams and ambition became another Hollywood tragedy. Two stars dimmed by the blinding glare of fame. In the end, it wasn't just a breakup. It was a public unraveling, a reminder that in an age of viral outrage, love can't always survive the noise. When it finally happened, it broke them. Insiders paint a grim picture of Rachel Zegler's emotional state in the weeks following Snow White's disastrous premiere. Publicly, she appeared defiant, posting statements, defending herself in interviews, and trying to hold her ground against what felt like the entire internet. But behind the scenes, those closest to her say she was coming apart at the seams. She was glued to her phone, scrolling endlessly, reading every comment, reacting to every jab. Any mention of her name online sent her spiraling deeper into what friends described as a fragile, anxious mental space. One friend admitted they were genuinely worried about her. She was on edge all the time, they said. Even the smallest bit of criticism would send her reeling. Josh Andres Rivera, once the calm, grounding force in her whirlwind life, allegedly began to pull away. He became less present, less patient, and eventually, completely gone. And honestly, it wasn't hard to see why. Rachel had become the internet's main character, and not in a good way. What began as a fairy tale dream, the young actress cast as Disney's Snow White, had turned into a nightmare of relentless backlash and viral ridicule. During the press tour, her interviews that were supposed to promote the film began circulating online for all the wrong reasons. Instead of being celebrated as inspiring or thoughtful, they became meme fodder. Viral clips dissected and mocked across every platform. It started with one now infamous quote: "It's no longer 1937. She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be." While her intention may have been to highlight a modern, empowered retelling, her delivery came across as smug and dismissive of the original. To many lifelong Disney fans, it sounded like she was tearing down the classic instead of honoring it. Then came the real explosion, the clip that would haunt her for months. Standing in an interview chair, she smirked and said, "I deserve to be paid for every hour that my movie is streamed online. I stood there 18 hours a day in that dress." It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. The tone was self-satisfied, almost arrogant, and it clashed with the wholesome, humble image audiences expect from someone playing a beloved Disney princess. Instead of channeling Snow White's charm, she came across like the villain, cocky, combative, and painfully unaware of how she was being perceived. From that moment on, every move she made was scrutinized. Every tweet became a headline. Every red carpet interaction was broken down frame by frame. And the optics didn't help. Whenever Rachel appeared beside her co-star Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, the tension was palpable. What was meant to be a fun, empowering partnership between two Disney icons looked, on camera, like a PR nightmare. During one awards presentation, the awkwardness was unmistakable. "Please welcome Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot," the announcer called out. They stepped on stage, smiling for the cameras, but fans watching at home could sense the frost in the air. As Rachel read the teleprompter, her voice shaky, her smile tight, Gal stood stiff beside her, her polite expression barely concealing discomfort. "Their work makes the impossible seem possible," Rachel read. "Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects." Social media exploded. "You can feel Gal Gadot trying to escape the stage," one viral tweet said. Another wrote, "She's radiating secondhand embarrassment." Fans didn't even need slow-motion video breakdowns to notice. The body language said everything. It was clear that Gal wanted nothing to do with Rachel's growing PR disaster. But perhaps the final nail in the coffin wasn't the awkward interviews, or the uncomfortable press tour moments, or even the icy co-star chemistry. It was the film itself. Snow White flopped. Critics called it joyless, tone-deaf, and unfocused. Audiences stayed away in droves. And when the numbers came in, people online were merciless. "Who's surprised?" one comment read. "You cast arguably the most out-of-touch, least genuine person in the industry and expected it to work?" In the end, Snow White wasn't just a movie. It became a symbol of everything wrong with modern Hollywood. The overcorrection, the arrogance, the disconnect between stars and audiences. And at the center of it all was Rachel Zegler, once seen as a rising star, now trapped in the storm she couldn't control.
Performance. Bear in mind, we haven't even opened. We are here until February. So that's a lot.
And her industry, Hollywood, can be a brutal place to fall from grace. The supposed bad guy of the Snow White saga, at least in Rachel's telling, was Gal Gadot. From the very beginning, Rachel framed the film as a feminist reimagining, a bold, prince-free version of the classic tale, one centered on independence, strength, and leadership. On paper, that sounded empowering, but in execution, it missed the mark completely. Rachel proudly declared that this Snow White wasn't about waiting for a man or being saved. It was about finding power from within. Snow White gets her name not from the fairness of her skin. As we obviously know, that wouldn't make sense in this case. She explained in one interview, awkwardly referencing her own casting. Instead, she gets her name from surviving a snowstorm. She went on to describe how audiences would walk away understanding the true meaning of fairness. Not about skin, but about heart. There's a message that's been carried on for almost 90 years, she continued earnestly. Fairness is what's within you. It's about how you treat the people around you. It has nothing to do with what you look like. And that's the misunderstanding between Snow White and the evil queen. The way Disney has elevated that for a new audience is very special. It should have been an inspiring statement. Instead, audiences felt lectured. What was meant to be a touching update on a classic fairy tale came off like a corporate TED Talk. Self-serious, overly polished, and painfully out of touch. The movie that was supposed to rekindle childlike wonder instead felt like a moral lesson wrapped in CGI and empty slogans. The magic, the innocence, the charm, all of it had been stripped away. Even longtime Disney fans, the ones who defend nearly every remake, couldn't bring themselves to support this one. "This just isn't Snow White," became the common refrain. They weren't rejecting progress. They were rejecting pretension. They didn't want to be re-educated by a film that once made them believe in happily ever after. They wanted enchantment, not ideology. They wanted warmth, not lectures. And when Rachel, in interview after interview, doubled down on her stance, calling the original story weird and outdated, the gap between her and her audience grew wider. While Rachel believed she was championing a bold new vision, audiences saw something else entirely. A performer disconnected from what made Snow White timeless in the first place. It wasn't empowerment they saw, it was condescension. And in that widening disconnect between what Rachel thought people wanted and what they actually craved, everything began to crumble. Inside Disney, alarm bells started ringing. The studio, already bruised by multiple box office disappointments, was quietly scaling back its plans. Insiders whispered about damage control. One report claimed the Hollywood premiere for Snow White was being scaled down. Fewer press events, fewer red carpets, and a subdued rollout that felt more like a retreat than a celebration. Why? One insider was asked. Their answer was blunt. Because Rachel Zegler is a PR nightmare. Her public image had become toxic. Her relationship with Josh Andres Rivera was unraveling. Industry support, once strong, had begun to vanish. She went from being Disney's golden girl, the face of its modern fairy tale era, to a liability executives whispered about in meetings. What was once framed as the dawn of a new kind of Disney princess had become something else entirely. A masterclass in how quickly a Hollywood dream can collapse when the fairy tale turns into a fight. The fairy tale had become a cautionary tale, and it all started with a girl who thought she was being brave, but forgot how to be kind. Rachel Zegler's Snow White press tour wasn't just a misstep. It was a full-blown detonation. What should have been a graceful, heartwarming charm offensive turned into a string of awkward interviews, defensive remarks, and viral moments that painted her in the worst possible light. Instead of winning hearts, Rachel delivered what felt like a series of condescending TED Talks. Each sit-down interview was laced with sarcasm and superiority, her tone more combative than charismatic. She didn't come across like a grateful young actress living a dream. She came across like someone tired of the dream entirely. She mocked the original Snow White, calling it creepy and weird, questioned the very existence of Prince Charming, and seemed more interested in rewriting history than celebrating the film that made her famous. "We're not doing that 1937 stuff anymore," she quipped in one viral clip, her smile sharp, her words clipped. But to fans, those words felt less like progress and more like betrayal. She didn't just criticize the old story, she insulted the people who loved it. The very audiences who had grown up on Disney's magic felt dismissed, patronized, and excluded from the new narrative. That's when everything began to turn. Generation Z rolled their eyes, millennials logged off, and boomers turned away entirely. In a rare moment of unity, nearly every demographic seemed to agree. Something about Rachel's attitude just didn't sit right. Then came the numbers. Snow White opened to just $45 million a whisper by Disney standards. For a tentpole film with a massive budget, years of anticipation, and the full force of Disney's marketing machine behind it, the result was catastrophic. Within days, it became clear Snow White wasn't just underperforming, it was collapsing. The backlash was merciless. The film's IMDb rating plunged to a humiliating 1.6, putting it among the lowest-rated movies in the platform's history. Social media erupted in mockery, memes comparing it to cinematic flops like Cats and Morbius flooded timelines. Clips of Rachel's interviews were edited into parody montages, with captions like "Disney's downfall in 10 seconds" and "How to lose $200 million with one bad quote." Theaters began quietly dropping the film from premium slots, replacing it with anything, literally anything, that could bring in more traffic. Animated reruns, re-released classics, even mid-tier horror flicks outperformed Snow White. It was a staggering humiliation for what was once Disney's crown jewel. But the internet didn't mourn the flop. It celebrated it. Audiences treated the failure like a national victory, a symbolic pushback against what many saw as Hollywood's arrogance. "We told them," read one viral post, "stop lecturing us, start entertaining us." And just like that, the dream that began as Rachel Zegler's rise to stardom ended as one of the most infamous PR implosions in modern movie history. What was meant to be a story of empowerment became a story of ego. What was meant to redefine a princess instead redefined a career. And not in the way she'd hoped. And not in the way she'd hoped.